Hello, welcome to the self-learning podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 10, Feminist Approach. And we are continuing our topic, Features of the Feminist Method. And subtopic is, Feminist Sociology is against a separation and reification of a division between the public and private. In sociology, when gender was seen primarily as an organizing principle of the family, the other areas of social life were falsely conceptualized as ungendered. The division between an ungendered public sphere and a gendered private sphere is both ideological and misleading. Illustrative of this would be the fact that the male professional would be preferred in the corporate sector, and the argument given would be that the men are more committed to work, while women would be distracted. They get married and pregnant. The significant point is that men too get married and become father. But the dominant assumption is that the private sphere comprises the cleaning, cooking, shopping, child care, attending parent-teacher meeting, looking after the sick would be the woman's work. The public sphere of work for women cannot therefore be reorganized until the private sphere is. In developing countries and increasingly in the developed ones too, there are part-time or full-time female domestic workers. Sri Lankan, Filipino and Bangladeshi women, among others, are migrating across national borders to run middle-class homes. This leads us to the third point about the intersection of gender with other categories like class and ethnicity. The next point is, feminist sociology recognizes the diversity of gender statuses in the social order. Commenting on defining methods of study, Krishna Raj wrote, "A positive feature of feminist method is the attention it pays to the context rather than predefined, operationalized hypotheses. Feminist sociology focuses on statuses that intersect with the social class, caste, race, ethnicity, and international division of labor. Gender is therefore imbued with enormous differences in economic opportunity and political power. Gender categories are not homogeneous. As mentioned above, the domestic worker functions as the bridge between the public and private domains, for she facilitates her employer's move into the public domain by taking over the latter's socially reproductive work, filling the gap as it were between the two domains. Although domestic service is low in the hierarchy of the occupation, its easy availability throughout the world has caused economically vulnerable women with or without particular skills, training, or education to migrate to distant places both nationally and internationally. Feminist research endeavors to emphasize diversified experiences and practices of women in terms of their race, age, ethnic, historical backgrounds. It makes a conscious efforts to include more than to exclude. Sociologically, concepts such as class, status, honor help in examining women's place in society. Indeed, the belief that the women move only on marriage or with families rested on a set of patriarchal assumptions, such as that women are primarily and solely homemakers, that they are not independent workers, and that therefore migration for them can be only be as accompanying members of the migrant, again believed to be the adult male breadwinner. Facts suggest otherwise. In terms of the scale of migration, women and children outnumber adult men. Of 150 million migrants worldwide, it is estimated by the International Labour Organization that 36 to 42 million are migrant workers and 44 to 55 million are members of their families. Furthermore, the female-headed migrant households are less likely to have adult male family members accompanying than male-headed households. According to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, women constitute 51% of the 6.1 million refugees for whom information by gender is available. Now the next point is feminist methods adopt the reflexive stance. The transformation we seek in the disciplines are also transformations of our own ways of thinking. It is useful and reassuring then to share with others that the actual expertise and language of women is the central agenda for feminist social science and scholarship. Feminist researchers have over the last decade been increasingly facing the need to hear the voices of women. Engendering sociology means interrogating the processes by which the sociological discourse was gendered, by putting forth feminist reflexive understanding of sociology as emancipatory. Hence, for those of us committed to reflexive modernity, the task of engendering is one of underlining the ways in which the sociological discourse is patriarchal, middle class, Hindu, and Brahminical. As Reggie said, the uphill task is of reconceptualizing basic categories of analysis. Once the experiences of the marginalized have been brought to center. Now let us move to the next point, a feminist discourse in India. The feminist discourse in India has organized itself around its critique of marriage and family. In this context, we may say that the feminists in India have articulated the debate in the last 3 decades of the 20th century by theorizing not only around deconstruction of oppression of women, but also its negotiation and transformation in real life situations, focusing on the economic class aspects of women oppression. Socialist feminism has engaged in discussing the relationship between sexual, economic class and racial oppression. Scholars like Hensman have provided a socialist feminist critique of marriage, family, and community, as they feel that the original left critique is inadequate. Similarly, Joan has studied family and marriage in a historical perspective and shown how the social reform movement during the 19th and early 20th centuries engaged with the domestic domain via critique of tradition as embodied by specific subjects such as widows, child brides, and others. Not just confined to the upper and middle class social reality, the feminists in India have drawn our attention to emerging critiques by Dalit and lower caste women. Formation of an all India group by the name of National Federation of Dalit Women symbolized another arena of debate around the caste-based inequalities, and Indian feminists faced the challenges that this critique brought out into the open about the invisibility of Dalit women's perception of exclusion from the mainstream the feminist movement. Violence against women and legal inequalities were of course the key themes discussed extensively by feminists in India, but now they are entering the domain of marriage and family in the light of now fairly common occurrences, clashes of perceptions about sexuality and gender relationships, studies, and sociology. Now let us conclude the unit. We may conclude with the quotation from the Freire, Marx, Lauber, and Husserl that the feminist approach works to make gender visible in the social phenomena, asking if, how, and why social processes, standards, and opportunities differ systematically for women and men. This approach also recognizes that the gender inequality is inextricably entwined with other systems of inequality. Looking at the world through a gender lenses thus implies two seemingly contradictory tasks. First, it means unpacking the taken for granted assumptions about gender that pervade sociological research and social life more generally. At the same time, looking through the gender lenses means showing just how central assumptions about gender continue to be the organization of the social world, regardless of their empirical reality. The tasks mentioned in the quotation are in line with the current practices of sociology. Almost all the world, there is a conscious effort in higher education institutions to integrate theory and research on gender in the curricula as a whole. This indicates the currents of transformation in the discipline of sociology. Instead of arguing for a separate feminist methodology in which only women can carry out feminist research, you can make a case for locating feminist research within the theoretical and methodological discourse in mainstream social sciences. The study of gender occupies now a significant space in the sociological research. The contribution of the feminist approach to sociology is not confined to providing narratives of women's experiences and to highlight the signs of sexism in conventional sociology. The feminist approach has contributed the inclusion of new themes and concepts. We may wonder if the feminist approach is a harbinger of a paradigm shift in sociology. In the works like Feminist Foundation Towards Transforming Sociology, edited by K.A. Mayers, we may find claims of this effect. We may agree or disagree with such a reading of the impact of the feminist method on sociology. We have the right to argue that the feminist research has now grown quite sensitive to its critics, and as a result, it tends today to be more inclusive. It is inclusive in the sense of focusing on more diverse experiences and perspectives of women of different races, ages, colors, cultures, and histories. This trend has meant useful analysis of gender relations, which are increasingly correlated with the issues of racism, ethnocentrism, and socio-economic formation. Feminism is no more a fad, and the feminist approach is reflective of a higher transformation in the perception and construction of social reality. Now let us wind up the session, and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.